Hi, I'm Anna at the Sewing Studio, and in this video I am going to talk you through the Janome 5270QDC sewing machine. I'm going to show you all its features and functions, talk about everything that comes in the box, get it threaded, show you how to do that, do some sewing, show you its capabilities, and then talk a bit about warranty and support. Now those are all split into chapters, so if there's a particular section that you want to look at, feel free just to head straight there. So the Janome 5270QDC is a quilting edition machine. Now all that means is that it comes with an extension table and some extra presser feet that are designed for quilting, but they're actually really good for other purposes as well, which I will talk through with you when we get to the sewing section. It's a computerised machine and it's standard size, so you've got 6 inches of space to the right of the needle. Now there's 270 different stitch options on this machine, and that includes 12 different styles of one-step buttonhole. You've also got a font on there, both uppercase, lowercase and European letters. These are all quite neatly detailed on this stitch card here, and that just sits on the top of the machine. And they're easily selected with the touchpad here and displayed on the LCD screen. You can very simply change your stitch width and your stitch length using the buttons on the side there. The machine has a built-in memory, so when it comes to the fonts, you can program in a name, a sentence, a date and things like that to stitch it all out at once rather than doing them all separately. It also has a mirror stitch function, which basically means the decorative stitches, you can just switch them around so that they're facing the other way. And that's really good when you're edging something or going around. You can keep the bulk of your work this side, but turn the stitch so it's all facing the same way. Now, as it's computerised, it comes with a foot pedal, but you don't have to use it. You have the start-stop button, and therefore you have speed control. So you've got slow, medium and high, and that acts as a speed limiter as well when you're using the foot pedal. You've also got your reverse, a locking stitch, needle up, needle down, a twin needle setting, that's a safety feature, so if you want to use a twin needle, press that one and it will stop you selecting any stitches that will cause the needle to break by being too wide. And lastly, you've got your automatic scissor cut button, and there is also a little manual cutter on the side here as well. The presser foot has extra presser foot lift. Can't remember where the lever is, it's all the way up there. There you go, to get any bulky items in underneath. And you can also adjust the pressure that's on the presser foot, and that's with this dial up here. So if you're sewing through something quite fine, you can slacken off the pressure and then it tends to not get chewed up in the teeth. Likewise, if you're going through something quite thick, you can slacken off the pressure and it just helps it feed through. This machine also comes with a knee lift which plugs in the front there, and that means that you can lower and raise your presser foot with the use of your knee. That's really handy if you're doing like chain piecing or applique or sewing round curves, really, really useful. You've got the 7-piece feed drive system, that's really good and keeps your fabric under control, and you can drop those feed dogs as well for any Freemotion or darning work. It's got a built-in needle threader, and this is more of a one-action type needle threader, very simple to use. And it's a top-loading bobbin, so you just drop it in, lay the thread in around the easy set, and there's no need to drop the bobbin thread, you can just carry on sewing. If we pop this off, you also have a free arm here, and then there's storage in the front of this for all the feet that come with the machine. Now they start with the standard foot that's already on there, one for zips or piping, a blind hem, one for overcasting, and one for over edging. And then you've got 2 clear feet, one is open and one is closed, a 1/4 inch foot, a Freemotion foot, a walking foot, and your one-step buttonhole. There's also a range of accessories, including these great optic magnifiers, and they just slot in above the needle to help you see that area that's being sewn really clearly. And you've got your instruction book an instructional DVD, the power lead, the foot pedal and the knee lift. You've also got the extension table. If I take that off, that just sits on there like that. And lastly, this machine comes with a hard cover. Now it weighs just under 7 kilos, so not the lightest, but certainly not the heaviest. So it can be transported, and this helps to keep it protected, but also whilst you're storing it away. So let's get it threaded. I'll show you how to do that. We'll do some different types of sewing, and I'll show you its capabilities. So threading the machine is really easy. You just want to pop your spool cap off, put the spool on, and then put the cap back on the end. And that just stops the spool of cotton from flying off when you're sewing. And then everything is numbered for you. So you're just going in number 1, 2, around 3, in 4, down into number 5. Now before I get to the guide up here, I'm just going to consider the needle threader. So the needle threader is this device here, and this comes down to the same spot, excuse me, every single time. So the eye of the needle needs to be in the right position. Now handily on this machine, you have a needle up, needle down button. So if you press that, it pops the needle down, press it up again, and the needle comes up. And that is now in the right position for the needle threader. So you can carry on in the last guide just above the needle. And then there's what I call a little crocodile's tooth here, and you just pop the thread in there and then cut off the excess on the manual cutter, and then you bring the threader down, back up, and then you've got the loop in the back to draw through. And that's the needle threaded. And then for the bobbin, you just move that to the right and the cover pops up. Now the bobbin goes in with the tail of thread to the left, so you just drop that in. I like to pop my finger on it to give it a bit of tension, stop it spinning. And you go under this little lip here. And then again, this is numbered on the easy set, so number 1 and then number 2, just cuts it off. Pop the cover back on, and that's it. You're ready to start sewing. You don't need to draw up the bobbin thread. You absolutely can if you want to, but you don't have to. So when you switch the machine on, it will automatically default to the standard straight stitch. Now there's a few modes on this machine because it has so many stitches. It's separated out into folders, if you like, which Janome called modes. So it'll automatically be in mode 1, which are the direct touch stitches here. So these are the most, or what's deemed as the most commonly used stitches. So you've got things like your standard straight stitch, your triple straight stitch, zigzag, anti-fraying zigzag, overcasting, things like that you can just very simply press and bring up straight away. So it'll always be on the standard straight stitch. If you want to change the width or the length, you can see you've got the numerical digit here. That corresponds with that one, and as you can see, you can just go up or down, whichever one you want to. So I'm not going to use the foot pedal. I'll show you the start-stop feature. So I'm just going to drop the needle in, and I'm on the slowest speed at the moment. So I'm just going to make a start. And when you want to reverse, you just keep your finger on the button for as far back as you want to go. Take it off, and it will come forward again. So slow is really quite slow, quite manageable. Go up to midway. And then up to top speed. And when you're nearing the end, you can keep your finger on the start-stop button, and you can see it goes to the very slow speed to make finishing more accurate. And then you can just stop. And again, you can just reverse back for as far as you want to go. Now we went up to top speed there, and top speed on this machine is 820 stitches per minute. So at this point now, to release the work, I'm going to use the automatic thread cutter. And by touching that button, it raises the needle, and down in underneath, a little cutter shoots out from the left and just nicks off the threads so that we can just lift the foot and take the work out. And that's your standard straight stitch, and that's underneath. Nice and neat on this machine. Now there is another way to secure your ends rather than doing the reversing stitch, and that is with a locking stitch button. So I'll just pop the fabric back in, and that's this one here that looks a little bit like a target. And what that does is it just does 3 stitches on the spot. I'll show you in a minute. Let's go back down to midway. So I just press that one first, and then I can press the start stop button, or you would put your foot on the foot pedal. And it's just going to sew 3 stitches on the spot and stop. And then you can carry on. And when you want to finish, just press that one, it will stop, and again do the 3 stitches. Press the scissors, and there you go. So sometimes when we're doing something decorative or top stitching or something like that, you don't necessarily want to see the bulk of reversing, especially if you're doing something around. It gets quite cumbersome at the front and the end. So this makes it much neater, but it's just as secure. If I open these now, these stitches aren't going anywhere. Now this locking stitch button also has a second function, which is a pattern end. So when you're sewing out one of the more decorative stitches, let's turn this around a minute because they're in mode 4. I'll show you how to select that a minute. So I was saying that you've got the different modes here, and to navigate through them, you press the mode button. So now I'm in mode 2, mode 3, mode 4, which is where I want to be. And then let's sew out a row of pussycats, so number 68. And then you can see there's the cat on the screen. So I'm going to make a start sewing. And you can see that time, when I press the locking stitch button at the end, it didn't instantly stop sewing. What it's doing is carrying on to the end of the pattern until it completes a whole stitch. So as you see in there, and as you can see, you've then got a complete cat on the end. So it saves us taking the guesswork out of when we finish a seam and just having like half a decorative pattern there. I'll just quickly show you the mirror stitch. So those cats have sewn out that way. So if I press this one now, it's going to sew them in the opposite direction. Oh, wrong one. That one. And there you go. They're going the opposite way. So a mirror image. Moving on to the one-step buttonhole. You've got your buttonhole foot here, and you just push that out at the back, pop your button in, and then clamp it down so it's nice and tight. And that now gives you the size range for your buttonhole, and it'll automatically add 2 millimeters so your button goes through nice and easy. Now these feet just pop off, you just push the lever, and then they snap back on. You can use the extra lift to get this under, and then just drop that in there. The next thing you want to do is bring down the buttonhole sensor, and that's just behind the needle threader, and you want to pull it down as far as it will go. Then it's a good idea to get this needle thread under the buttonhole foot, and the easiest way to do that is to drop your needle down in some fabric, bring it back up again, and pull the fabric through. Okay, so let's choose the buttonhole stitch. They are back in mode 2. So to get around to there, I'm pressing mode. So I was on 4, so it's gone to number 5, 6, 1, 2. That's where I want to be. This is cotton, so I'm just going to choose a standard buttonhole, which is number 22. And you can see this is giving me the information here as well. So it's telling me to use foot R, and this symbol here is telling me to bring the sensor down. If you want to, you can adjust the width of the stitch within there and the length as well, but it's a pretty neat buttonhole just left as it is. So you just pop your fabric in, drop your needle in, Keep it about midway because it gives it a chance to sew it much neater. It's quite a dense stitch, and make a start. It'll beep to tell you it's finished. You can just snip the threads, and there's your nice neat buttonhole. That's the top and that's underneath. So I'll quickly show you the fonts. Let's just pop this presser foot back on. Just going to pull that needle thread out a bit more so I don't want to lose it. And they are in mode 5 and 6. So I'm going to go round to number 5. So to type out a word, let's just type out Janome because we're on a Janome machine. I can see a capital J is number 20. So I'm just going to type in 20 and you can see there's a J. Now I want to carry on and type in all the letters for the whole word. So what you then do is press memory, and you can see it's now brought a cursor for me to put the next one in. So 37, and then you press memory again. 50, oh, can't spell. So if you do go wrong, you just go back one, and then you can retype that in. N is 50, memory, 0 is 51. M is 49. You could do it all in capitals if you want to. E is 41. Lovely. And if you want to check back on your spelling, oh, I deleted that then, didn't mean to. That's because I didn't press memory. Note to self, 41, memory. Right, now you can check back. So Janome. Lovely. There are boxes here, a small box, a medium box and a large box, and those are a space. So you can select that number, press memory, and then move on to your next set of letters or a date or anything. And I think, don't quote me, but I think there's around a 30 character limit on there. So you can do quite a long sentence if you want to. And then sewing them out. So I'm drop the needle in. Cut the threads. It's only done one name. If you wanted to repeat that again, just don't cut your threads and press start again, or put your foot on the foot pedal. And there's the word Janome. Now each letter is secured with a locking stitch, so if you wanted to have your stitch unpick and just take off these joining stitches, they're not going to unravel or go anywhere. So next, let's take a look at some different types of fabric. So I've got some jersey here, so I'm going to pop a jersey needle in, thread the eye of the needle. How easy is that? It's lovely. So for this one, I'm going to choose the triple straight stitch. So you might think now that you could just press 5 to get to the triple straight stitch, but we're in mode 5, so it's waiting for me to put another digit because I'm in the wrong section, if that makes sense. Mode 1 is your direct dial, so you need to go around again to mode 1, and then I can press number 5, and there's my triple straight stitch. So I'm just going to pop this in, pop the needle down, so that's your triple straight stitch, and you can stretch the fabric with that stitch, and the seam is nice and stretchy and secure. Now you can see how that's not lying completely flat. It is a little bit wavy. And what can help with that is the walking foot that comes as part of the extra quilting kit. Now predominantly this is used in quilting to stop the layers shifting, so the top layer shifting from the bottom layer, but actually it's really useful to help regulate stretch fabric and any tricky fine fabric really. So let's pop this on a minute and I'll show you the difference. Find my screwdriver. So for this one, actually I find it easier to take the needle out as well. You take the whole ankle off, just unscrewing the screw. And then I like to get that part way in. There we go. And then this piece here has to sit on top of the needle bar, so you can lower that down if you want. And that just sits on there, and there's 2 pins straddle the screw. It's fiddly, but once it's on, it's on. If you've got smaller hands than I have, you'll probably be able to do it by hand a bit better. And I'm going to pop the needle back in. Make sure it's in the right position for the needle threader. Oops, cut that off. And then get that threaded. Lovely. Okay, so I'm going to pop the fabric underneath. It has got little teeth here, so the extra lift is good to use here. Drop that down, drop the needle in, off we go. Now you can already see as that was sewing, you weren't getting that kind of ripple of the top layer that you were before without using it. And as you can see, it's sitting much flatter than the one before. And again, it's still really stretchy and secure. Now, whilst I've got the walking foot on, I'll show you it with the quilting guide bar. So if you were doing straight line stitching, you have this guide bar to help you keep your lines regular. So let's go back to standard straight stitch a minute. I'm just going to slow it down a little bit. And we'll stitch out one line. Let's go over this way. Now I always like to turn mine around to get a bit of ruching on there. It's just the effect that I like to have. You just slot this guide bar in, she says. Oh yeah, there, snap it in. Slightly different from my machine. And then let's go for about 1 inch. So I'm on the inch mark there now. And then what you want to do is line up that stitch guide, seam guide, sorry, with your line of stitching. So don't follow the needle for this, you're following this line of stitching so that you get a consistent distance apart with your next line. And as you can see, you've then got your consistent space between both lines, and you would just carry on that way, and if you wanted to, come back that way. That also works if you're cross hatching, and it just helps to neaten everything up and make it look consistent. So whilst I've got the quilt sandwich, let's have a look at some Freemotion. So I'll just unscrew the walking foot. And then the same principle on this one. This one sits on top of the needle bar, sorry, the needle clamp, and then this one straddles the screw on the ankle, like that. We want to drop the feed dogs, and that's just the little lever on the back there. And you can see they've disengaged now. Also going to pop the extension table on, just to give myself a bit more room. There we go. And then let's pop the fabric underneath, drop that down. Which way do I want to go? I'll go this way, I think. And then we want to draw the bobbin thread up. So needle up, needle down, draw up your thread and drop the needle back in. That's about the right speed for me. I'm going to take the stitch length down because obviously I'm determining that with how fast I'm moving the fabric. So let's go. And there we go. Just done some simple feathers there. It's nice and easy to do. The stitches are consistent and the back looks just as neat. Sticking with the extra feet that come in the pack, there is also a 1/4 inch foot. In patchwork, the seam that is traditionally used is a 1/4 inch, and that's what this foot is designed for. However, it is also really useful for top stitching. So if you're making a lined bag or something like that, it's really good for when you're going around the top and stitching everything in place. You know you're keeping the same distance from the edge of the fabric. So I'm just popping the normal ankle back on. Whoops. I'll leave the extension table on because why not? It doesn't matter. If anything, it just gives you more room. So I'm going to pop the 1/4 inch foot on, and then in mode 2, you'll find a stitch, sorry, it's in mode 3, find stitch number 9, which is P for piecing. So I'm just going to go around to mode 3 and then stitch number 9. You can just use a standard straight stitch, that's absolutely fine. This just sets it a nice small stitch for patchwork. And then what you're doing is lining up the edge of your fabric with the guide on the edge of this foot. So you just want to drop that down, and then instead of watching the needle when you're sewing, you want to watch this to make sure that you're consistently against that guide. And there you go, so that's your 1/4 inch for patchwork, and as I say, it's also really useful for doing any top stitching because you're keeping the same distance from the edge of fabric all the way around. So especially if you're doing something in the round, you're going to end up exactly the same place as you started. And last but not least, let's have a look at some thicker type of fabric. So I've got some denim here. So I'm going to pop the standard foot back on, and I'm going to put in a jersey, no, not a jersey, a jeans needle, a denim needle. And I will pop that in. Make sure that's right for the threader. That's that. In underneath. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the standard straight stitch. So I'll go up to mode 1 and number 1, which it will always default to as soon as you go straight to a mode. And then because this is thicker than what we've been working with, I'm going to increase the stitch length slightly, only to about 3 from 2.4. And actually, I don't think I mentioned, but the maximum stitch length on this machine is 5mm and the maximum width is 7mm. And that's handled that really well. You've got your nice stitch in there, no skip stitching, and it's nice and secure. So let's fold that over and go through 4 layers. I'm going to slow it down just slightly, only because it's thicker, gives the machine a chance to sew through it with the precision that we need. And again, no problem at all. Seam is nice and secure. So let's double it over once more and we'll go through 8 layers. Now this time, because it's so thick, I'm going to increase the stitch length again to another millimetre. And I'm also going to slacken off the pressure that's on that presser foot. So when we were sewing that last one, you could see that it started to bulge at the end. So if we slacken that pressure off, it'll stop doing that and you won't get the shift in your layers. So I'm just going to move the stitch chart out the way and then turn this dial just back a couple. And you'll only get to know these things and what works once you have your machine and you start playing with it, really. It's always good to test out on a scrap piece of fabric first whenever you're changing a project or anything. Lovely. And there you go. Still nice and consistent stitches, top and bottom. And that is not going anywhere. Now this machine comes with Janome's 2-year warranty as standard. You can extend it to 5 years, and this card will be in the box which explains how to do all that for you. And don't forget, we're here at the Sewing Studio for any support that you may need with your machine. So I hope in this video I've managed to demonstrate to you how easy this machine is to use, but also for the size of the machine and the cost of the machine, how much you're getting for your money and how many different projects that you can cover and make with this machine. Now I hope you've decided that it's the right one for you, in which case head on over to our website, pop it in your basket and grab one. Delivery's fast and free. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.